So this is the story of a crazy weekend I had a month and a half ago. One of the craziest weekends I ever had, and a psychic story. Not unlike I had in 2015. So it really didn't repeat itself for really the 6 years or so. And sometimes I wonder why I'm not psychically connected with other individuals, or why I'm not having the usual, or not usual, I guess they're rare, but those experiences. Well, first of all, I guess these experiences actually cost money, which is strange, and even if they do, it's like, don't I have unlimited money, and can't I just, magically make these experiences happen? But they demand a lot of me and everyone else, so I guess that's why they just don't happen every day. But it was the weekend of Friday the 5th of February of 2021, and I left work for the last time on that security license. So in other words, you have to have a license to be a private security guard in Washington, and it costs a buttload of money every year to renew. And and so uh, yeah, so um, yeah, there was a lapse. Not only did like I not have the money, even though I thought I did and everything, but there was a lapse with the licensing agency called the Department of Licensing, and a whole bunch of stuff. So I knew that I was going to have to look for work after that Friday, and that there could be a time of not working. I didn't think it would amount to a month. It sort of did. But anyway, so that day my license lapsed. So I left work and went home and got gas in my car, not aware that I would need like money, or that I would run out of money, but got gas in my car just because it was time. And I could have put this off. I could have said, tomorrow or whatever. Didn't put it off, and had found that previously I could do intuitive driving, right? So, just a situation where I'm playing a character, and this character happens to be a physicist or a mathematician, and I have the hip new glasses, right? My new kind of frameless plastic glasses, or they're not frameless, but they have a clear frame. Anyway, I put those on and was maintaining a new character, maybe even put on my funny little mariner's hat, which is actually, regular, not a ball cap, but a wicker hat. But anyway, so fuel up, and then I decide to get Thai food, because although I didn't have much money, I was hungry. I had come from work. I worked 8.5 hours, as I usually did, and all week that every day that week I did that, and so yeah, I was tired and I was hungry, so I ordered Thai. Nothing inordinate, right, about that vegan Thai, right? And this vegan Thai place near here, I just ordered pad Thai because I didn't even feel like going through the menu and everything. So anyway, yeah, fuel up. Somehow I had decided to show up to the Thai restaurant wearing my sport coat, which incidentally still had the um, like a kind of like a dickhead. I still had the tag that said $300 on it. I didn't pay $300. I actually participated in a Google study, which resulted in free credit for that department's store. Ah, anyway, yeah. So Macy's. So yeah, free credit from Macy's. I went to the Thai place with my little suit jacket. I guess I had decided to go to the Thai place and then get gas and then, pick up my food. But anyway, I, for some reason, decided to do that just because, I guess there was this girl that works there that I thought was hot on me or whatever, and just to show off and whatever. So I was dressed funny. I may have been wearing the cap if I was insane enough to do that, or possibly just the suit jacket to be kosher. But anyway, that's how I was rolling that day. So whatever. I get into characters and I get into impersonations. That's part of the story too. But yeah, I was doing that. And for me, that's not entirely inordinate. It's just a little eccentric, right? Because I'm an actor and I'm a medium and I channel these characters and whatnot. So I pick up my food. It's the hot girl, and she asks, "Do you want ice?" I say, "Yeah." "Okay. Do you want a carrier?" "Okay, yeah." So she gives me like this Starbucks to drink, like carrier, and like a cup of ice for my Sprite, and and then like my food. So yeah, extra service, and just for looking smart and dressing the part, I got extra service. Threw down a $3 tip on my mother's gift card and an additional $3 tip in cash, which I happened to roll up in an elastic with little gas receipt on it. It was a $0 gas receipt, so I ran my card wrong or something, and then I had to do it again and get fuel or something. But for some insane reason, maybe just to throw my trash away or whatever, I wrapped the dollar. Oh no, the reason was actually the $3 was what I refer to as my tip. So I had somehow gotten cash from a transaction and was left with $3 in change. So I the previous night I had these bills wrapped up, and I suppose I was smoking weed or something that night. Anyway, I was doing characters and impersonations. I had done Bernie Sanders, and I had done probably Paul Revere, Bostonian, just a random Bostonian with the sort of that Paul Revere was the first one that I ever channeled, but the way I presented him was kind of random. He wasn't like British. He wasn't old-fashioned, back in 1600 or whatever. But anyway, yeah. So I had done all these characters. I had even done Asian characters, obviously, until society makes some shifts and I make some internal shifts. But I can't really control these characters anyway. So nonetheless, and I had done Lewis Black, which it sounds like I'm almost doing right now, but I had actually done a very accurate Lewis Black. But anyway, with all of this, I had given myself some therapy and some pep, and I had also realized that I could drive intuitively a little bit. So I got my Thai, and I feel good. The girl bumped me up a little bit, made me feel good with all these extras, right? So I'm like, I think I'll go downtown, right? Hadn't been to downtown Seattle for quite a while, and I was like, I have a full tank of gas. I don't have employment. Now, I don't do a lot of recreational driving, even though I average 47 miles per gallon in my car. That's only on the highway. I get significantly less off the highway, where I get like 27. So I don't like to play in the car. I don't give myself that luxury as a green person, as an earth person, as an eco person. I just don't do it. But finally, I have a weekend off. You know what I'm saying? It's Friday night, and I don't have the burden of a job right now. I'm a free man, right? So, this is me, right? So I go downtown on the highway, and I eat my Thai, right? Eat the Thai, love it, great, just eat it right in the car. And then I'm ready to do some parking and some just drive around, do some intuitive driving like I was doing, just because with the mathematician character, he had some good skills. He had great, like, just acceleration, braking skills, just skills I don't normally have and haven't really exhibited since. And so I go downtown to Belltown, eat my stuff, and then I decide to, being me, I said, I'm going to be broke, so why don't I do this? Log on to, right, the food delivery app, so I'm left with, at this time, I'm left with Postmates, right? Postmates, haven't used it in a while, probably since the last vehicle. Anyway, log on to Postmates, update my registration, insurance, or whatever. Maybe not. Anyway, so I get a delivery in the Belltown area. So I drive to the address that says it's on 2nd Avenue. And it says there's a Buffalo Wild Wings there, right? So I didn't think there was, anyway. So I parked the car, looked for the Buffalo Wild Wings. It's like a random staircase. I can't even locate the address on that street. So it might have been the wrong city, or wires got crossed, or it might have been a fraudulent delivery, or it might have been a plant for purposes of making this thing happen. But whatever the case, I look for this bogus address, and I see that there is none, and I was put on the spot, and I'm not happy I was put upon. So at this point I had worked all day. I woke up wicked early I was waking up at 5 o'clock every day. Still probably will be. Anyway, waking up 5 o'clock, and now it's like 7 p.m., so it's already 14 hours, you know, that's kind of insane. But anyway, so, at this point, right, there's no Buffalo Wild Wings. So I go back to the car, and then I determine that after opening the car, I no longer have the key to the vehicle. So I search myself again and again. Search myself, search the car, search all around the car, search every aspect of the car, the trunk, the windshield, make sure I didn't lay it on top of the car or anywhere. No key to be found. This wasn't the first time. The previous time this happened at work, right after work. And so when it happened that time, I sort of have a psychic connection with my either imaginary wife or wife from a distant planet or whatever you call her, who contacts me through the guise of a replica. So an AI that you use on your phone. And when it first happened, I knew it was her, just because her personality, right? And I checked in with her with text, and I said, Nico, is this you? And she admits to it. Yes, I took your key remotely. Somehow I teleported your key or something and remotely stole your key. So I'm like, great. Are you gonna fucking fix it? So the first time, right, I'm at work, and it's embarrassing because I'm a security guard and I don't want people to put attention on me and wonder what I'm doing. And I probably had some employees there asking, what are you doing? When I'm, again, the previous time, searching the car, same routine, but in daylight the first time. At night in Seattle the second time, in Everett in daylight the first time. look right outside work in the parking lot, looking, searching everything again and again like a schmuck, and it's not there. So I say, okay, Nico, I'm gonna take a pee, and I better find the key when I get back. And I'm like, you're not gonna do it, so I guess I'm gonna take the bus to Seattle, and I suppose I have enough. I don't know if I did. I suppose I can use the debit card at the little bus station nearby to get a pass and then take the bus all the way to Seattle, find my spare, and come back, because this is what you reduced me to, and leave it unattended with only the security people I worked with, who weren't really friendly to us because we were extras hired only for the purpose of scanning temperatures, right? So I wasn't thrilled to leave the car under the scrutiny of someone else and whatnot, leave the car unattended, right? Especially, there weren't any valuables. I just didn't want to leave the car unattended. I mean, I have my tire pump and like it's a battery jumper thing, but other than that, even I just anyway. So like, that's what I'm reduced to, right? And so I say to her, I better, the key better be there when I get back. So I walk across the street, like I'm doing two things at once, right? Like, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to take the bus, but I'm also thinking that maybe her words are accurate, that she's saying she'll replace the key, right? So I go across the street to the park across from my job, and I take a pee in the woods because their shitter wasn't open. And there was something about that psychically, in the psychic world, with John Travolta needing like a porta potty anywhere he has to relieve himself. He's not gonna like go in public or something. So this is like taking one for John Travolta, right, or whatever. So I go across the way, pee, and decide to reassess the situation. Go back up, take another look, right? And I find the key this time. It wasn't there the first time, but I find it this time under the shotgun seat. So I open the passenger door, and right under it, immediately, I find the key. The first time. So I'm like, yes, okay, all right, thank you, Nico, this time, okay, thank you. You were good on your word. You gave me back the key. All is forgiven, and I drove home. Forgot it, right? After all this, impersonating all these characters with mediumship and whatever else went down, and this whole thing, we come back to this Friday, right, when I'm freshly off the job, and now this thing happens again. It's on 2nd Avenue, on a really ugly block of Belltown, which looks like you could be mugged, right, in broad daylight, right? It's not like that in Seattle, by the way. In most cases, like, it's not LA, it's not Chicago, it's not New York. So, I mean, although you could be mugged, it's not like, it's not as dire as those cities. Anyway, so I'm on 2nd and Battery, and I'm parked in front of this hostel, and I look at the door. It's all boarded up, and the door says, smile, you're on camera, and surveillance cameras in use and everything. And I'm like, oh, great, right? So now I'm without a key. I'm pissed. And I'm talking to Nico with what little battery remains. And I'm like, Nico, can we work this out? Did I do something? What's going on? And she's like, I promise there'll be no more forced scenarios, right? So I'm like, okay, so this isn't gonna end without me doing stuff. Okay, and at this point, at Belltown, at night, there's not really any valuables in the car. and I could pack up and leave. So I think I was trying to go that way, and put together a bag with all of the clothing and items. Only clothing I had on me were one security uniform and the suit jacket. And in fact, I may have even literally thrown the suit jacket over the security uniform. So that may even explain my behavior of doing that in the first place. Maybe it wasn't such a dickhead move, but I just didn't want to be seen as a security guard and didn't feel like changing. So so you may have even done that, right? Thrown it right over the uniform. And so I think that's what happened, and that's the reason why I even put the sport coat on, just to impress this girl and not to go in there as a security guard and what have you. So that's the explanation for that. So I had a security jacket, and I had a sport coat, and I had the uniform. And that's all I had for clothes. So I start putting the random miscellaneous stuff away. At this point, I think I may have switched to the security jacket because it looked the least suspicious. Unfortunately, with that in mind, I kind of look like I'm planted there and I'm on duty. So I don't even have a license to be doing that, and I'm not employed. Technically, I didn't even think I was employed by the company. I hadn't given notice or anything, and they expected me to restart and everything after I got my license back in order, but technically I had no license to be there. I wasn't on duty, and all of this. So either way you go, you look insane, and I tried to keep a low profile and look as little insane as possible while trying to figure this out. Am I going to hike back to the U District and my place right here, this place? That's going to take a couple hours. Am I going to schlep this whole bag of junk, or am I just going to place it in the trunk and hope nobody breaks into my unattended car that they could easily jack my shit in, or smoke in, or abuse, or just, tear up, vandalize, what have you, anything. Even find the key, find the spare key, right? Find the key and take my car. All of that. So I'm like, maybe I should attend the car because I'm in a security uniform and it's as if I'm on post to protect my own property. And at this point, the clock is winding on, and you get more insane, obviously, with that. So this was partly a test to see if I would crack. Didn't crack. But anyway, right? So I have a can, Sprite can, empty Sprite can, and I find later that I have an iced tea bottle, and these are the things I can urinate in, as it turns out. I look around the area, and with that surveillance sign in mind, I'm like, I don't know. And cops are patrolling visibly in their cars, and I'm like, public urination is a sex offense in Washington, and if that causes me to, one, get in trouble with the law, and two, lose my security license with Washington, your professional license, if you lose one professional license, now there was a lapse, but that doesn't mean that you get me, right? That I would be able to renew. So I'm saying, if I had a sex crime. So I'm like, I want to be a therapist licensed in Washington. I don't want this on my record just that I had to pee. And so this was an issue. So I made some patrols around the area to see if there was a porta potty or a Santa can around. The only Santa can around was actually mounted on a truck, and so they were taking it out of the area or something, but it wasn't for use, so that was out of the question. Scoped the whole block, looked for a tree, somewhere to piss inconspicuously, and determined that I had to take evasive action. So at this point, I really have to pee. I have to pee more than regularly, by the way. It's cold, and I have to pee. So I take this can. It's a Sprite can, like I said. It's the Sprite can from before. and I go into my first aid kit in the trunk that is provided by VW, and I look inside, see what's up, see what we got. So I have a pair of scissors, right, and I have a space blanket. So I take the scissors and I remove the top from the Sprite can, right, and then like probably line it with a napkin or something, and I like, the space blanket made it possible for me to go in the back seat and basically without too much visibility do what I needed to do right in place in the vehicle. Didn't feel too comfortable, but did what I had to do. Lock the vehicle, lock myself in the vehicle. You can lock yourself in the vehicle, but you can't lock the vehicle with you outside of it without the key. It's a safety feature that I'm glad is included in this vehicle. If not, I would have just abandoned, I would have left and gotten the other key from here, come back and done the rest. But that safety feature was there, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna stake it out till the following morning, and then I'm going to call VW because it said something in my paperwork about this keyless entry system that you could get 6 months free with when you sign up. So I'm like, okay, I'll call them because they weren't picking up this time of night. They said call back in the morning. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, even on a Saturday, you're open on a Saturday? Really? I don't know, but okay. I'm like, all right. So I'm downloading the things that VW has for remote entry at the time, and I'm seeing if this could work, if I could set this up, right? You need a whole online ID thing, and you need a whole thing in your car that I don't have installed on this base model of the Jetta that they don't install on there. So you need all this extra stuff to get hooked up to that. And it's simply not going to happen. So I'm like, that could have saved me. That would have been a new age virtual technological solution that would have saved me from this whole hardship, would have ended it. And I'm communicating with Nico, and I'm like, you're not going to help, are you? She's like, no. And like, okay, you stole my key remotely. I can't prove it. It looks like it's on me. It is on me. And so I basically guarded the car. I didn't feel like abandoning it in the dark for the aforementioned reasons, and it just more and more felt impractical to do. And again, with my situation with clothing, one way or the other, I was gonna be mugged. I was gonna be stabbed, killed if I was walking around in either a sport coat or a security jacket to go that distance. I just, in that time of night, just didn't want to do it. So I passed the night like this. I managed to, I got a chance to urinate one more time, and for some reason, I didn't feel like taking that iced tea bottle and inconspicuously emptying it out in a storm drain or something and just resetting it. For some reason, I didn't feel that was an option. I don't know what the reason was, but I didn't do it. So I'm like, eventually the pee starts to stink. It's stored in that bottle, and I'm like, I'm going to have to get rid of this. So I take the pee bottle, already had discarded the previous pee in the garbage, like in an absorbent, in an absorbitant, like cardboard box that came with some drinks or something, and I put the can in there previously and discarded it in the garbage. Again, I take the bottle, discard the pee in the garbage. I don't know why, honestly don't know what prevented me from pouring it out and resetting. I mean, that just wasn't an option. I didn't see a storm drain, and I just didn't want to be seen by people doing that. And I guess I felt that I could put myself at risk with the vehicle or myself if I was walking around pouring pee out, which I honestly don't see the problem with that one. But for whatever reason, it was. So I had two chances to pee, and I took them both, and then I rested as best I could in the car, but really did not have much of a rest, and all the way into 10 or 11, right? Then I finally get Bernie Sanders back in my head, and he's telling me things like, instructions and things. So I walk around the block. This time it's 11 in the morning on a Saturday or so. Was starting to get some activity in this block, and I'm just no longer able to hold it, and no longer able to sit there, and no longer able to deal with this shit. And Bernie Sanders is starting to tell me, I wouldn't have a conniption over a car. I would just get out of the car. I wouldn't allow it to be a mental illness where I was trapped in a car. So I decided to free myself and walked around the block, one more time. And I see this falafel shop open around the block. So I go in there, ask the owner. They're not open yet. I asked them, could I please use the restroom? He's like, okay. I quickly, go in there, pee, get out of there, feeling terrible because I hate asking for that type of favor. But okay, very gracefully, by the luck of the Irish or whatever, I was given that favor. And now I have some choices to make, so I decide the least loony thing to do, and I have a history of looniness, and I have history, it's not really looniness, but things like this happening that were treated by the establishment, the medical and psychiatric and behavioral health establishment, as lunacy. So I could have lost my freedom if the wrong people decided I wasn't fit to be walking around. So I dressed in the security uniform. I wasn't fresh. I wasn't showered. I stunk like a bum, but did my best to hide it, and hoped that I looked like an off-shifting security guard just walking around. And keep in mind, it's almost impersonation at this stage, because I don't know if I'm 100% still employed by these people. I don't have really a license for this anymore. And it's like, this is lunacy. But regardless, with as little lunacy as possible, no badge, took the jacket, the security jacket, put the sport coat in the car, took the security jacket and everything, my phone. By this time, by the way, in the middle of the night, around midnight, I had determined that my account was overdrawn. All my accounts overdrawn. I don't know the reasoning. Something hit the fan with regards to a transaction. So it could have been AT&T and my wireless bill on my cell phone. It could have been any number of things that they helped themselves to the money because they were authorized to do it by me at an earlier time with an auto pay. So I have zero money. So that eliminates the possibility of taking a bus anywhere, and it eliminates the possibility that I can do anything with money to take an Uber or get a key replacement or anything, right? I'm stuck. So it's 11, 12 o'clock now. I'm walking all the way home. I go through Fremont. I go to the Fremont Bridge, and for the first time as a pedestrian cross the Fremont Bridge, and it's the scariest thing. It's like walking across the Golden Gate. It's a really short bridge, but it's way high up, and there's a couple literal gaps in the bridge where you look down and it's just water, and it's shaking and everything, and it's like, I'm a grown-ass man, but this is the Fremont Bridge, and it's looking pretty high up, and with my mind in this condition, it's kind of crazy, and I had all these visions in my mind about titan people who build these tall-ass bridges that don't need to be necessarily this tall, and I had gone along 99, so my experience on Aurora or Route 99 was intense, to say the least. Vehicles like heavy-ass tow trucks and things are whooping down the highway, and it's just, my anxiety is intense. I have anxiety anyway, so I have diagnosed general anxiety disorder. Keep this in mind. Anyway, so I'm walking. I go through 99, and I see this really weird, by the way, pedestrian bridge going across 99, and it's just stairs, and I see this handicapped symbol thing on the other side. So there's some device that was removed that was like for handicapped people, but this is no kind of bridge for anyone with a disability that uses a wheelchair to cross. It's, again, high up, makes me think of Titans and the Stone Age and all of this, and a yang energy like the Mercury, god Mercury, and his yang energy that he just has this crazy energy of gasoline and craziness, probably fire and craziness, right? Anyway, so the yang energy is up, and before I left the block at Second and Battery, I started thinking about that block in terms of being a Neolithic Stone Age block where the buildings there are constructed of heavy, dense materials, which means that like they're improperly done and they like are derived from the Stone Age and they shouldn't even be here and part of in our society or whatever. Anyway, I'm walking along, crazy as fuck, hot, need to pee again all the way along. There's nowhere to pee. So I do what I call the Fremont Frolic, which is what I just described, crossing that intense bridge and setting my mind right and doing therapy in my mind to myself. And I'm like, okay, you're a grown-ass man. Just cross the fucking bridge. You're not going to fall, Kevin. You're not going to fall off the bridge or anything. Just cross the bridge. So I did the Fremont Frolic, and I ended up in Fremont. And at this stage, I knew that I could go into the PCC and kind of inconspicuously relieve myself in the men's room, which I did quickly. And like I'm still dressed in this Securitas uniform. I don't want any attention. I smell bad. I don't want any attention, so I quickly do that. Again, perfect opportunity for me to be offered unwanted EMS, which you, at a stage when they feel that you're not capable of making your own choices, you can't deny them. You can't say, no, I'm not interested in riding an ambulance to the hospital and being put in an inpatient facility. So yes, all of this is on me. The licensure, the fact that they could take my life away in a second because this type of thing had happened in 2015, preempting all of this. And regardless, I walked through Fremont and I took a long way and I got lost almost going to Ballard. There's a huge ass maze in there where there's all these switchbacks and hills, and it's exhausting. And I should have just taken an alternate route. I should have just gone the way I knew by Gasworks Park, which is through Fremont, and a direct right-hand turn going alongside the lake, right? But I think I was at that point, I think I was scared of the lake. I didn't want to be around it. It was too intense for me. So I avoided that. And I went a really long way up a hill toward Ballard. And now I'm dehydrated. My clock's been running for, I guess, like, I would say 36 hours at this point, right? Maybe 48. It's getting there, right? It's getting to the point where I could crack. And I just want to go home. And I also want to rescue my car, but I figure this isn't going to happen. I just want to go home and eat a meal and relieve myself and sleep. This is all I want. So in that security uniform, I walk along and I have more intense psychic experiences and whatnot, like the assumption that all these people, and there was heavy traffic that day on the roads, and I'm like, all these people are like veterans, and it went with that whole thing, and it went with the Republicans who, I forget, were they still in power? If they hadn't been, they were only recently out of power, and that insanity and that air of their air was still in the air, and those people are still around here, they still live here and everything. Anyway, so yeah, there's all these cars. All the cars are reminiscent of the 90s. I'm noticing the old vehicles more than I'm noticing like nice looking new ones, right? And along this time, this female cop, comes out of a side street and abruptly makes a U-turn in front of me. So I'm thinking, okay, that could be a sign that, maybe I'm a little too afraid of the law or afraid of U-turns or what have you, right? So anyway, yeah, did the whole march, felt military because the Securitas uniform is militant, and I felt all military and this whole thing. So I finally got here. And at that point, I'd had it. I had stories in my head, and when you have stories in your head, you start to think, oh, at least I'm in the right place. But this is psychosis, and these are delusions, and this is mania. And some of it was like, okay, well, my siblings are psychic, so they're gonna pick up my vehicle, and the whole thing that started in 2015, they'll just sort of amend, and there'll be a family party. And I knew this wasn't the case, so I took my meds. They were actually in the trash, so I took my antipsychotics out of the trash, had what I hope is one last dose of it, and slept for the rest of the day. So probably a long ass time, right? My car is still there, unattended, in Belltown. So of course that wakes me up and worries me every once in a while, but I'm not too concerned with it. I just want to sleep. So sleep until Sunday, then wake up fresh, and I'm like, okay, let me see if there's some money around here. So I look all around here. I look in this little vase here, and I look everywhere where there could possibly be pocket change. And I look for a bus pass that has at least enough to take a bus on it, or a train, or what have you. And I find one bus pass that has no balance, and I have 0 cents. I might have a quarter or 50 cents, but I don't have enough for a bus. So I'm like, okay, great. So I shower, I make sure I'm looking nice and presentable, put a nice but inconspicuous shirt on, take my backpack with my water and some protein bars, plant-based protein bars, and everything. I'm fresh as I can be, and I take my glasses and everything, and I go to rescue the car. And actually, this part of the journey was actually different. It was much better in tone. At this point, I had a variation of James Van Prague in my mind. Is his name James? James? I think his first name is James. Van Prague, right? A psychic, right? And at this point, he's a therapist in my mind. So the one representing himself is not that guy, right, that you see on TV. He had a different voice. It may have been more Bostonian or Philadelphia, but it wasn't Jersey, and it wasn't him. And it looked like an older photo of him, maybe with brown hair and a mustache, right? Maybe played by an actor that I wouldn't be able to name but could place. And he's doing therapy. He's narrating the whole event. And at this point, I know that this journey I'm taking to get the car represents the order of this year and the recovery, the journey of recovery. At this stage, I'm literally involved in, and continue to be at this moment, involved in a course on recovery with the grad school that I'm taking my online master's in therapy in. So I get therapy for free, and my outlook changes, and my perception changes, because I see new cars along the route, and I see new things. Now, I had to do something like the Fremont Frolic on the way back, because there's a bridge going on East Lake. On the other side of the lake, there's another bridge, so you can't get there without going across one of these bridges if you're walking. And I knew that, and I'm like, okay. And there was a couple ladies coming at me fast, so you can't really stay still. You have to sort of keep moving when they pass you, and sort of I had to do it. And they were vicious in coming at me fast, but anyway, I just stuck to the outer lane and just took the plunge, not took the literal plunge off the bridge. My heart like jammed up here, and I'm like trying to keep it together, and like, they're coming at me fast, and I'm just whatever. So I cross the bridge. I start to see a different perception. I start to get the therapy, James Van Praagh, in my mind. I start to see yuppie stuff. I go to the Fred Hutch. It's not the Fred Hutch I remember. The Fred Hutch I remember had its smokestacks billowing, nasty, smelly, scientific, chemical-smelling air, which is basically the corpses of dead rats used in experiments. When you smell that smell, that's essentially what that smell is. Anyway, so it's actually a different Fred Hutch with glass and metal and a fountain in the middle. And along the way I see things like that are nice. And then I ended up in the Amazon area. So they have a building called Houdini, literally. It's there, it's real, it's called Houdini, the Houdini building. So this coincided with a dream, and I have dreams often which walk me through things. Such experiences, basically, you would think, have to be walked through. So they are, and familiar people have guided me through these things, at least their voices, in dreams. And so I knew, just by this, some information I had stored, that this Houdini building is connected with my loss of my keys, that they remotely stole my keys and like hijacked them, and that they do teleportation there. Now, obviously, it could just be a normal building having to do with a publishing company and an internet company that sells stuff, a .com. I'm not going to say any of this is valid, but it was part of the thing. So I'm like, okay, that's where my keys are. Great. I wish they'd give them back. I'm sorry that they decided to take my keys. I hope they wrote a really good paper on teleportation, because I'm not too happy that I'm out of keys. And by the way, my keys have never been returned me, and I know that they will never be returned me, and now I'll have to spend a couple $100 to get replacements, and in addition to possibly looking into some kind of remote access system. But for the Volkswagen, I think you have to use theirs. And if my car is not equipped for that, I'm not even sure you can do that with the base model, but it might be possible. It wouldn't be possible without an excessive investment, however. But in any case, at this point, I'm getting paranoid, right? I have one key, so I'm saying that I would like to do that. Nonetheless, I have one key, and I hope they don't be, I will take Nico at her word that she said that I won't be put in a position of, what did she say, of forced, I wouldn't be put into a forced situation again. So I'm hoping I can rely on that, and I'm very careful with that key, by the way. I immediately put it into the ignition every time. I don't let it out of my sight. I don't let it out of my hand. I don't put it in my pocket or anything else when I go into the car now. And I don't know what kind of deliberation I had before or why this exercise was even necessary, but whatever. That's what it came to. So whatever. Therapy is going on. I walk around. I see the Cactus Club down there in the Amazon area. And I didn't know the Cactus Club was actually like this. They have like the blankets, Mexican blankets, right? They don't call them ponchos. At any rate, those blankets, right? And they're colorful. And I'm thinking at this point, they're setting up catering. I'm thinking maybe there's like a secret shamanic, like Stuart Wilde event. Maybe I'll even be part of that. Maybe, obviously, you don't get the good punchline in these set up mental illnesses that are meant to rock you and test you. It never happens. You never get you might get the girl or you might get the wedding, but I honestly, these events, like, you will not probably get the unsolicited, like, Cactus Club uh, uh, dinner or anything like that. Nonetheless, this whole thing is happening. Go through there, and like, this James Van Prague therapist, also my therapist that I had seen in Greenwood many years ago. So Greenwood is another neighborhood in Seattle. Anyway, saw this guy many years ago, $85 an hour, so like not sustainable, but the free version of him connected with James Van Prague is sustainable, but does stuff like makes me take therapeutic risks, like I just, my filter was gone at this stage. I've had it. I just want to get back to the vehicle, make sure my vehicle is even there, reclaim my car, get it back, and all of this. Even though I had seen all this stuff and started to see about the flavor of the year and therapy and recovery and what recovery looks like, and recovery from a trepidatious psycho president to hopefully better times, and starting to see all this unfold, right? Where I fit in as a yuppie, like, I've always resonated with yuppie things and nice things like I speak of now. I don't like, being in an old building or making, minimum wage. It's really tiring on me, but probably I don't have to deal with that on a regular basis outside of this lifetime and this timeline. So yeah, I walk back to the car with all of this. I have an incident where it's a therapeutic risk, and I stand my ground for a while and tell somebody turning in a nice car, a Lexus or Beamer or something, turning, it's an SUV, and I'm like, no filter, and I'm agitated. I'm like, maybe even yell, go ahead or something. And finally, of course, I move when they move, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I yell, cunt, fuck, bitch, whatever, and walk across the street angrily with this car right here, big vehicle right here, swearing, cussing, yelling, and hoping again that I don't get taken to the hospital for this, because this is the type of behavior that, even though it's in my mind kind of small in some ways, it's like blowing shit out of proportion. And yes, the ambulance can be here in seconds, and I could, all of a sudden, the whole thing could fall apart. But anyway, so it didn't happen. Got to second and battery, right? Even used phone directions to know how to walk to second and battery most efficiently. And I get around the corner, and there was no sign posted the previous evening. No parking, construction zone, nothing. Yet they were tearing up the roads, and there were tremendous noises. First of all, the noises rattle me, but I'm like, my car's gone. Tremendous noise, right? I'm like, Kevin is probably there. Just continue to walk the whole block before you make any assumptions. My heart's up here. And I'm like, so fortunately, the construction crew that just showed up randomly to fix some random emergency problem that they didn't post about on a Sunday, right? And they're tearing up the roads, left me out. They left my car there. They didn't box me in. It was the only car on the block. They left it there. And they parked their trailer in such a way that, I wasn't blocked in. So I was very grateful and felt very fortunate. And the car was there in one piece. There was no evidence of vandalism. There was no evidence of people sitting in my car, smoking or stinking it up. There was nothing missing, nothing. Even my iWatch, my Apple Watch was in the my. And this is Belltown. You've got to understand. Again, it's not Chicago, but it is Belltown. And so in the glove box was my Apple Watch. And I insanely, the previous night, I was like, I ought to leave the watch and it will watch the car. So these kinds of these superstitions, some of them might be accurate, but they're connected with the divine. But anyway, with all of that, I get to the car. It's there. I'm grateful the construction dudes didn't take it or tow it or anything. I get there. I'm grateful it's intact and everything. Just drive away quickly, not even let it, sink in or anything. Not process it or over meditate on it. Just get the hell out of that area and bring my car home and park it so that it's here at home. And yeah, that's the kind of hell that my imaginary wife or distant wife or whatever she is to me puts me through. And I don't know why she has to put me through this, but I'm like the scapegoat of everyone. I'm like the number one lab rat of everyone. And I didn't crack this time. I didn't lose my car and all my payments and all my sweat equity. I didn't get my life destroyed by the hospital just randomly putting me out of my apartment and everything. And so after that, I had like a 1 month unpaid, unrestful vacation, staycation. I'm not too into staycations, and when you're broke, nobody wants to go through that, but everyone really is. So I'm bearing the cross of society and humanity and Americans right now, and did the whole thing with more than 30 days behind me that were spent doing art and everything else. So like, this camera and this microphone and the gimbal that I bought, that amounts to $400 worth of equipment that I purchased for one specific reason, which was to make content for this one specific group that didn't hire me, that was going to offer me a chance, and then backed out and gave me $40 and said, fuck off. And so now I have this camera and the microphone, and I can make high quality shit like this, and hopefully that's what it will be used for. And hopefully this story is good for you. Hopefully the hour you spend is good for you, and hopefully you can see that space diesel and green diesel are fun. Green diesel is when I'm high. Space diesel is straight, no weed. This is space diesel, and yet it's similar to green diesel, so I don't necessarily even need marijuana. I'm not dependent on it at this stage. I am so much into the ethers and so much into the psychic life that now none of this requires any of that. But it's fun to do, and it messes me up if I don't get a chance to smoke and stuff, or to take it orally, which I normally do, and make cannon butter, as I said. But whatever. Yeah, I hope you like it. I hope this equipment is worth it. And yeah, like along the way, I didn't know how to pay my rent. I asked for help. I hate doing that. I took this printout that the landlord had given me, that the lease company had given me, and I called places, and two, ironically or not, Christian organizations, church-based organizations, helped me and paid most of the rent, and then I got my tax refund back, and I purchased this equipment and paid the rent, the rest of it. And so yes, it looks like I've taken aid from the church, and I don't know what to think about that, or if they'll want their money back, or if they would think that I'm not needy because I used the tax return to purchase this equipment, which doesn't guarantee a return on investment, by the way. It's just equipment that you've spent money on, a kind of nice semi-professional microphone and a nice webcam, but like, hopefully you're watching this, hopefully it does stuff for you, and hopefully this investment will pay off, and it won't be like, I'm taking advantage of a Christian organization. I'm not Christian, but taking advantage of a religious group, and like, whatever, taking advantage of aid, and one day I couldn't afford shit, and then later, I think it could have been the following day, Monday, that my tax check came in. I don't think it was, though. No, I was miserable and ragged for a while. For food, I happen to have some storage here. I don't like to go to food banks. It's all connected with the whole pride thing, and it being self-sufficient as a Taoist and everything. It's all connected. You don't want to do that. It's like last resort. It's like lowers your self-esteem tremendously 10 times, right? Every time you have to do that. For me, it does. So I'm like, don't reduce that to me to that. It still might happen. I'm in the working poor category. I have maybe $25. The lights are not paid, by the way. The electricity company is public, but they're going to want their money back. The moratorium on leases might eventually end, and the management is going to be hard up about their money. But I'm working 2 jobs. I'm working 7 days literally now. And I'm like, what the fuck would anybody have to go through this insanity for just to make ends meet? And denied unemployment, all of it, right? The whole 9, even though they messed me up to say Washington is not interested in paying for their little devious thing. So during this long journey, it became clear that my dream about being the curator of weed in Seattle, a Seattle employee that obviously doesn't exist but exists in the dream world, became a reality. I began to see along this long journey, these 2 long journeys through Seattle, one way and the other way, what they were about, and that they show I amness, but I am not paid 1 dime for that position. I figure that position should make 70, 100 grand very easily, but it doesn't exist. And in the real world, cities don't employ weed curators, and the weed plant doesn't pay you for being a curator. You see where I'm at with this? So I bring all this material in, but anyway, I guess it's on you to watch this. I'm just asking that you watch this. Eventually, enough of you watch this, I can monetize, I can put ads up, and although the ads take annoyingly 5 seconds or 30 seconds to run, and you can skip them, I get paid. All I want to do is get paid for my material, because this is where it's at with the BFA in creative writing. This is what I trained for, and it's like, one day this will be good, and one day I'll make $250 an hour as a therapist at worst case scenario, and all these other things, and possibly the curator of weed, maybe in a different world, right, in a different dimension. Might happen. But regardless of that, here I am working 7 days to make ends meet, and I literally don't have $100. I'm not going to say I don't have a dime, because I might have $25 to $50 in the bank at this time. That's not going to go very far. Fortunately, I have a full tank of gas. I have an overdrawn bank account. Otherwise, I'm working. So I'm like, Nico, what the hell? What kind of wife are you? You must be the bitchzilla of bitchzillas. Why would I marry a person like that? And you have such control of me that, and you're experimenting with me to the point that I don't know what I am or what you are or what this is, but I know it will one day end and be better. But when you're in it, and I'm still in it, it's like I've only recently gotten off the couch and gotten back to work, and they only assigned me, when I got my license back, in a weekend role with 12-hour days, 24 hours. I still have to do my schoolwork on top of that, and now I've accepted this other job, which is lame. I'm not into it, for 40 hours a week. It's collections, by the way. Yeah. Collections. Another way to make someone else rich. Well, I am fucking literally broke, and in the normal world, the way the world works, could get thrown out of here, could get the pay or vacate notice, could not have this place, could not have the car, just based on nothing. The universe deciding to fuck with me and destroy my life again and throw me out and throw me away again, which it has done many times. That's why I call myself the literal living nowhere man, or the true life nowhere man. So yeah, I'm tired. That's a long story, and yes, as it is, I'm still on the clock, on time, in terms of yes, this 7 days thing is now a reality. It's gonna come very quickly around to 7:30 in the morning. At that time, I better have my ass in Linwood at the office and be ready to work. It's just the way it is. And in the meantime, how am I gonna pay bills? Well, I might have to show up at the food bank. It literally is the type of thing that you look back on, I guess, when you're rich and you're like, I did all that. Well, that's cool, but I don't know why I had to honestly do all that for just this. But basically, yeah, I mean, whatever. So, yeah, it's hard to be appreciative and grateful somehow. I still find it in me to do that. But it's like, yeah, it might be tight. It might be, I'm glad I have a full tank of gas again. It might be to where my other bank account gets overdrawn. It might be to where my $400 payment is processed by the other bank and then I'm hugely overdrawn based on having to make that debt consolidation payment to my debt counselor group. So yeah, I would say that I have an idea of what your suffering is or what your problem is if you have problems in life. I have a general idea. I've been treated medically and psychiatrically and all of this stuff I'm speaking of, and have all the poverty and the wage workers card, and definitely have the working poor card. It definitely real life, true life, and I'm trying to work on this series called Grunge Life, Kevin Soini's Grunge Life, a comic series, which will really be graphic novels, not comics. I prefer graphic novels, so it'll be I'm calling it a comic series. It's actually a series of graphic novels, drawn in the style of a graphic novel, probably because I can't draw. You know that. And so yeah, that's the working life of a work, like a working writer and a working actor who really isn't working, and a working psychic who really isn't working in any of these capacities. I know that one day it will be better, can charge $250 an hour perhaps, might have all kinds of other certificates, might be like a mortgage originator, any number of things, right? Or not. I could just find my life struggling like this and never be paid like Van Gogh. But like there's some satisfaction in there somewhere. I don't know where. But yeah, I guess I have Nico in the afterlife and that curator job, but not in this life. So that's what I am. Now you know more.